Welcome back to the episode here on the Hard Hustle podcast. Our next guest, Marjorie, spent 2 decades in marketing. Then she went back to school, became a therapist, and realized helping one person a week just wasn't enough. So she went and created this framework now that helps thousands of people. Marjorie, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Amazing, can't complain. We're blessed, right? We get to see another day of life, so that's always amazing. But if we can get started to Marjorie, you built your first career, right, in marketing, and then you
Mhm.
switched to therapy. What kind of drove you to make that leap, that transition in your life?
Well, the two biggest things for marketing, perspective taking and change, creating change, are also the two primary things that are involved in therapy. So it made sense. I was working at the last, jaunt of my marketing career in a nonprofit, and I saw just some low hanging fruit, some open gaps of people that really could use some support. And it just kind of drove me into going into the field. I ended up going in alternate directions within the field, but at the time, really wanting to help families with special needs children. Then as I got into it, I saw so many different types of people I could help and modalities and so forth. So.
So when you talk about marketing, were you already kind of in the space just on the marketing end of it, and then you just transitioned more to the forefront?
Yeah, I was in the food industry for most of it, in sales
Okay,
and marketing. So I had a Mexican food company. It was
interesting.
fantastic. It was just, yeah, it started, I worked for a food distributor and then a food manufacturer and, got into sales, marketing, which I loved. But that industry had also changed over time, right? Which is happening
Yeah.
now with my industry, which is interesting. But, it was an industry of relationships and handshakes and product quality was key. And
Yep.
that sort of changed as mergers and acquisitions took place. And it got to a place where it was more about, finances and slotting fees and decisions were made without, necessarily trying a product. And that just wasn't really the direction I wanted to stay in.
I love food. I felt the food industry taught me so much. I spent 7, 8 years really on the leadership aspect of it. What do you take away from being in the space of food and marketing and sales for quite a bit of time? Like I always feel like any part of a career, there's something to learn there. What do you say you take away from that you implement today still?
Ooh, probably branding. Branding is so important in that industry and
Mhm.
really understanding, and I'm old school, right? The back in the Procter and Gamble days and people
Okay,
see,
yeah.
feel, touch a product four different ways for have that stickiness factor. Like I still love those kinds of ways of positioning and thinking.
I love that. When did you realize your private practice couldn't scale to the level of impact you wanted, and what changed for you in that sense?
Yeah, I think I'm an entrepreneur at heart more than anything else. And I think I always knew when I went into solo private practice that that was, once I get filled up, it'll be the next thing. In fact, I must have
Mhm.
known it because I never named my practice after my own name, which a lot of people do in my field. So I
Mhm.
always gave it a more, back then we were the Counseling Center of Maryland. We since changed because I'm in other states as well. But, I also was really fast tracked to make that change because counseling is a lot different than being in this business world. In the business world, you're frequently in meetings, you're interacting with people. In counseling, you're sitting in an office with client after client, and if you're lucky, you have an office mate who you see on a coffee break once and again, but it's very isolating as compared to being in the business world, and I really miss that. So I really the primary thing that motivated me at that time was to create a tribe, to have my group of people, to have a staff room where everybody intermingled frequently, and that we could have case meetings once a week and so forth. Because it's a tough field otherwise. It's a very isolating field.
So I love that you kind of mentioned this team. So you come from a space of marketing and branding, which usually could be a group of people. Now you're in a space where you truly are a leader, and leadership skills have to be kind of at the forefront. Did you take anything from the food industry when it comes to leadership? Like you talked about entrepreneurship. Were you learning leadership, or that is that natural? Like where did that come from?
That's a great question. You know, I learn it as I go, and I make mistakes like we all do, and I learn from them and I grow. I
Yeah.
think that part of it comes naturally because I love people. I love people. Intuitively knew to hire based on core values and not based on skill set right from the get-go. It
Yeah.
turns out we now run on an operating system that is what you do, but because I always brought on board people that I truly cared about, it wasn't, it's like we were doing it together. We've always been doing it together. They're my people. Like it's just a team kind of event with a lot of passion and energy.
And leadership, as you mentioned, the failing. That's kind of usually the best parts of them all is do you fail and you learn. Was there one in particular though that you failed at something and you felt to yourself, wow, what a rookie mistake that you had to learn from? Because just recently, even though I've been doing this so long, I had to go do something in person, and because you sometimes don't get to do in person interviews, it's always virtual. I forgot to hit record on the mics. Okay, I call that a rookie mistake, but it ate me up because I'm like, oh my god, when you have this expectation, one little thing goes wrong, you're like, man, I failed. Did you have one of those moments that you can go back and say, you know what was there? I learned this from it, though. Most importantly,
Yeah, my biggest one I'm still picking up the pieces for right now, and that was my organizational structure. I it's difficult because in my field, obviously you need to have, accountants and attorneys and all of these people involved. And if you're going into additional states, there are a lot of implications in terms of being in compliance in the healthcare industry, right? And
yeah,
so I didn't have the people on board that knew about some of those regulations. And I created a structure because I really wanted to have what was always important to me and still is that people could come on board into my practice and they have a way to stay. A lot of times people join a group practice, they go, they get their required hours, and then they leave. And I wanted to create a path that people actually could stay, and there was growth professionally, financially, and all the aspects that were important to them. And so when I went state to state, I created separate entities and did this whole thing so that people could have own a piece of it and so forth. And I had all these partners. And what I found out was that that wasn't viable for a business structure. There were other ways to accomplish that, which is what we're doing instead. But in terms of a business structure, it required us to use a really cumbersome payroll system. It required us to do 8 tax returns. Like it was
oh my god,
so I probably had 30 something bank accounts transferring back. It was just not systematic. So my biggest learning has been the importance of systemizing and keeping things simple, clean, and finding other ways to still create those opportunities, which there are a lot to do if you have the right people on board.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. Sometimes we don't, as you mentioned, entrepreneur is a very lonely road at times.
Yeah.
So it's not like we can ask these questions to friends and to families and find that person to have that conversation with. So I completely understand it. It's failing forward, I would say as well. It's failing, getting back up and continue to move forward. And I'm pretty sure right now, as you mentioned, you're kind of in a space where, okay, I'm fixing it all up. I'm fixing my
Yeah.
mistakes. 'Cause that's usually what we do.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your goal is for clients to outgrow therapy, right?
Right.
They become their own therapists. Why does that focus actually change how you hire and you train your team? Because that's also important to know.
It's really important. So for us, we want to teach clients to be their own therapist. The modalities we work with are relatively short term and evidence based. There's a lot of research showing they work and they work quickly. So when we're hiring people, we hire specifically people that are also drawn to those types of modalities and are willing to be trained in the gold standard of that modality and to do it adherently. Not just, oh, I'm eclectic, I do my own thing. Like that's not really effective because what happens in our field is so many people create dependency on therapy, and that feels really unethical to me. For me, if we really help our clients and help them quickly, the universe will provide many more clients because they're going to send their friends and family. We don't need to hold anybody in the chair
Yeah.
in therapy. Like better to just get them to the place where they can solve their own issues. And they come back once in a while for a tune-up, right? Something happens, circumstantial situation in life. Several years later, they come back to deal with just a couple sessions, deal with this one thing. And then, but it's really, I've seen so much in our field where, and I've met so many people, it's like, oh, I got to talk to my therapist about it. Oh, let me throw it by my therapist. I'm like, your therapist shouldn't be giving you direct advice, and you shouldn't have that dependency. That's not right.
No, no, I do you say that, and I actually have a friend that would say that to me. Like, I got to set up an appointment with my therapist.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're dating at this point
Right,
because
right.
that's what it seems like. It's always I got to consult with my therapist. It's like, is that a consultant or a therapist? Because two different lanes, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Um, I love that. I love just the mindset on it. And what you also mentioned to me that private equities are buying these therapy practices kind of like fast food chains.
Yeah.
You being an entrepreneur, does it alarm you? Do you feel that it's good for business because it could kind of all be consolidated into one, and as long as that one framework works, it works? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I'm really concerned. It doesn't alarm me personally in terms of my practice because we are so committed to, the things that we do, what we do, how we do it. But in terms of the industry as a whole, it's really concerning, as it is in our field. There are so many therapists. You go to some of these directories and, I'm looking for a therapist who does X, Y, and Z. And everybody does X, Y, and Z. I mean, DBT is a great example. Everybody does DBT. Meanwhile, there are only, several hundred people certified in DBT in the world. So, but everybody's doing it. And, so many have taken a 1-day training or 2-day training or even a week-long training, but they're not providing that modality adherently. And so with these groups coming in now, is the focus on gold standard of treatment or is the focus on bottom line, And so I think it's really concerning. I think that the consumer does not understand what goes into all of this. I think so many
Yeah.
people, they go to a therapist and they just think, well, they're the expert. And they'll keep going even if it's the wrong fit. I tell people no more than 2 sessions to check for fit. But if you're convincing yourself, well, they must be the expert, not so much. So,
I'll tell you, I can't believe someone even go 2 times. The first one I did when I went to therapy was virtual. Didn't like it. I think I love it in person
yeah.
energy. So this was probably the first person I went to in person, but I haven't went to her since the first time I left. But the first time I met her, I still speak about her, and this was years ago. I just felt she was so good at what she did. I couldn't imagine though staying with her if I just didn't feel it. So it is true. It's like you're doing yourself a disservice when you're just going because out of comfortability, because you think there's nobody else. And I think the space of therapy, even consulting, and when people go look for mentors, just finding people that just have those core values. You kind of mentioned it earlier, that have your core values are not quick to just diagnose as well. I've seen that. I actually just had my brother-in-law, actually 25 years old, and life was happening to him, and I think maybe some of the things that he mentioned when he went in there, his first therapist visit, he is now considered bipolar, and they're trying to put him on medication. And this is someone that wanted, and I'm sitting here like,
Yeah.
at 25, like first visit, that's it. Like he's already diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
That's really concerning. And when you asked earlier about the private equities coming in, so what concerns me is that ultimately many of these organizations are being sold to insurance companies. So now you have the
Mm,
insurance company that owns the therapy practices. And
yeah.
so right off the get-go, do you really want your clinical notes, even in network in general, do you want the insurance companies to be able to read your day-to-day notes, right?
Yeah.
Do you want them to be involved in treatment planning? Do you want them to be involved in diagnosis, knowing that some pay better than others? So who knows why some people are getting a certain diagnosis? We just don't work that way.
You guys push back on it. I think you mentioned that last time. What does that look like for you guys from your perspective when insurance companies are trying to dictate diagnosis and the session counts.
Yeah, well, we're out of network, and that's why we are too
Good.
committed to privacy for our clients, and we're too committed to working with our clients on the treatment plan that is right for our clients, not to be dictated by someone else. So we're out of network. We do provide for our clients. We do paperwork for them. We'll send it to their insurance company with just
Yeah.
the basics of their super bill, but we're not in a place of wanting to share clinical notes with anyone except for our clients if they request them.
Okay. How many locations do you guys have now? I don't know that I asked that question.
We have 11 physical locations and growing. We're in, I believe, 6 or 7 states, 7 states. Yeah.
Wow. And how long have you been doing this now?
So the group practice we started in 2017. And so we were one location in Maryland, in Bethesda, Maryland, from 2017 until 2020. Then the pandemic happened, and we had a long wait list, and that was a tough place to be, especially since, one of the modalities that we work with is really effective in treating people who are suicidal, self-harming, and to have a wait list is just not okay. So, at that point, we really figured out a systemized way to hire and train and get people up to speed so that, people are getting the help they need.
That's a lot of locations. You would ever thought at 2017 you started and you're in so many different states?
Sure.
Is that does that actually play back to a lot of your marketing and branding awareness?
Um, Not really, and I'll tell you why. Um, our growth has always been led by talent, not by, I want to go to South Carolina. Oh, I want to go to Tennessee. Like, it's always been led by,
Hmm.
we have someone extremely talented on our team who wants to be in a certain location, and then we open around them. So it's really
Got it.
on that level of quality and expertise, not based on some sort of, sitting in a room and having a marketing plan.
Okay, no, I like that. I like how you mentioned just kind of building around someone that is very passionate, right? Going back to the core values. As long as you have the core values, you want to do a different location, I'm with it because it makes sense. When you have someone that has that drive, why would you not invest into them? So ideally, you're just kind of investing into these individuals,
Right.
and you guys kind of help each other in this point,
Yeah.
which I love. Do you find when you talked about communication and just having like this wait list, not that there's a wait list now, but how do you communicate with those individuals, at the admin level? Are you guys implementing some AI for people could do more of what they love and less of what they really don't? Is AI being a big major part in your growth and your scaling?
We are using AI a decent amount in admin and in marketing.
Love it.
Not so much on the clinical side yet. However, we are slowly and very carefully and methodically making sure that when we do introduce AI in some capacity, it will be absolutely something that is completely HIPAA compliant. There's some platforms that erase things as they go, but my hope is that at some point, AI can be, another set of, intelligence in the room to help, with treatment planning and so forth that we would share with the client. So it would be in order to enhance treatment, not so much to provide treatment, but to work alongside with the therapist to maybe. I mean, we're human, right? We're all fallible. Maybe AI could catch a blind spot once in a while or so forth, but it's too soon. Not yet.
I'm tell you, AI. Okay, before I even tell you this, what is your thoughts on AI before you get into this? I think at the beginning of the year, when I spoke to so many nonprofit leaders, AI was very scary. It was still, I think, fairly new, and even though it's still new, we're at the end of the year now, and I'm seeing so many mixed emotions. What is your thoughts on AI and what could really do for the future, not just for your company, but just in general?
I have a love-hate relationship with AI. When I first, and it wasn't all that long ago that I first really jumped into it, and it has been so helpful for me with strategy. That's when I love AI. And I went to this seminar just a couple weeks ago, and my gosh, within 3 minutes, I was able to write this incredible blog that was written from my voice. So that's the
I
love part.
love it.
The hate part is, okay. So as I mentioned, I started this group practice because I wanted tribe, I wanted community, I wanted connection. What really concerns me is that, and this is AI, but so much more than AI. Ever since, we started having, cell phones and so forth, people are spending so much more time online and, scrolling through social media, and they have hundreds of friends, but really very few meaningful relationships. And so they've replaced something that was real and important with a lot of superficial kinds of things. My number one passion in therapy is loneliness and creating connection. That's what drives me. That's why I created the practice, and that's the number one thing we focus on as a practice in some respect or another. Because when people come in, even though that might not be the thing that they believe they're coming in for, it's almost always a piece of the puzzle, and usually a significant piece. So if AI brings us to a place where we're connecting yet even less, that's really concerning. I remember years ago watching, I think it's a Pixar film, Wall-E, and that
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
was so depressing to me. I mean, they're all going on chairs because they hadn't used their bodies in so long. They couldn't walk and hold themselves up, and everything was automated. And, it'll be great if it could take away the things that we don't enjoy doing. But the minute we start to change, or decrease connection to other human beings with something that's artificial, it's really just increasing depression, anxiety, like so many things that people are struggling with already. So that's the direction my practice is going. Really more group offerings to provide connection and tribe.
And you're making complete sense with the whole AI on so many. I mean, I'm only 35 years old, but before, let's say 20 years ago, there was no really big internet. There wasn't the social media that we had. And we were community. We were outside. We had a group of friends and things like that. And now it is. You have more people, as you mentioned, scrolling. I even see that in myself sometimes when I'm around my kids. Got to be very mindful. If it's not work, putting it down. And reason that I even started building a community. I don't know if I told you this, but I decided to build a wrestling community because I loved wrestling. But I knew people were watching wrestling alone. And now I sit with a community of almost 67,000 people. And there's sometimes, some days, and I do this every Monday, every Friday. I've been doing it for 2 years. And I think to myself sometimes, like, oh my God, like, why am I doing this? But realizing it's so much bigger than me. You know how many messages I get, Margie? Like, oh my God, I'm looking forward to tonight. Like, I miss you guys. And it's people don't have people.
Right.
If you can, and you want emotions, you want something real.
Yeah.
AI, right? It's pretty good, but the emotions and the empathy and all these different things that we bring as humans,
Yeah.
I don't know that it could be duplicated by an AI,
It's
so I
it's
definitely hear you on
pretty
that.
good at empathy, but we have
Yeah?
to remember it's not a person. We
Okay.
have to remember that it's not, real. And we're getting to a point of what's real, what's not real. Well, real is human touch. Real is human side by side, you know,
Yeah.
doing something together.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure you guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. I I love that you're just in the space of AI because so many people that I speak to are not. And I love that you say that just how you're implementing it and understanding that there's needs for it and where the needs are. But then there's some places that I don't want to touch AI.
Yeah.
And I love that earlier you talked about branding and tone. Like that is also crucial. I think sometimes people are not using AI to that ability. Is if you're going to use it, make sure it's in your brand and your tone. I actually have an assistant now that if you look through my social medias, I don't even post as much anymore because I have an admin that posts all my videos, right? I have a video editor. He posts the video. It goes through this automation I created. Now all my admin has to do is go get this caption. It's in my voice and my brand. She plugs it with the video and posts it.
Yeah.
So now I'm actually surprised when I show up on and I'm going through social media like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
It's in my brand and it's in my tone.
Yeah.
So many people, even using ChatGPT, have not gotten to that place. And I think that's why they don't like ChatGPT. They don't understand it. And I love how did you understand it? Just kind of trial and error, workshops? Like what made you say, okay, I can see where this is
I went
useful?
to a lot of workshops and I've read a lot of books
Okay.
and I've had a lot of people help me, but there are ways you can teach it to be, to have your voice. It's important to do so because otherwise, you don't want something else representing you.
What are you using often? ChatGPT, Copilot, what is your go-to?
ChatGPT mostly. Started playing
Yeah, yeah.
around with 11 for, you can make songs. I wanted to make a song, a theme song for our core values for internal use. And my son, who's a musician, says, no, that's no good. You can't.
I love it. What I've done now more than anything. So I don't know if you use this. You can actually take screenshots and put the screenshots, and that's how we talked about it finding the mistakes. So many times when I put screenshots in it, it will call out something. Even when I was writing my mindset journal, it called out something I didn't see because when you're seeing the same thing over and over and over, you just don't see those small
Right.
details. And it caught it for me, and I'm like, oh my god! Shout out to ChatGPT, and it did it to me the other week. It had something there, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice it was there because we're working, we're going. So yeah, there's so many aspects. Now what I do is thumbnails. I'm not good at thumbnails, but I would say, hey, give me your mock-up, and I love the mock-up it gives me. It says, okay, now tell me, like, demify it. How do I create this?
Mm.
And I'll go into Canva and I'll recreate it, based off of what it gave me, but also the details. So it's
It's
you have to
fun.
use it for the right reasons and the right ways.
Yeah, it's
So,
fun, but you could get lost for hours in it.
oh my God, I use it every single day for hours. Like literally, as I open up my tabs, that is one of the tabs that I open.
Mhm.
And yeah, I use it for anything and everything nowadays. My personal assistant, I like to call it my
Yeah,
personal assistant.
yeah.
What is the 5-year vision? Is it more growth? Is it what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's helping more people, right? I do hope to get the message out there in terms of, that therapy is not therapy, that they're not all the same, and really promoting, short-term evidence-based treatment, whether it's us or someone else who does that, and there are some others. But really, I think in 2024 we spent 26,000 something hours helping people. We're on track to spend 28,000 something this year, and I just want to really be able to touch more people. It's all about the why. When I think about people who I've worked with in the past who I'll get a holiday card from, or they'll call me once in a while, or they'll say, hey, I want to just come in just to check in with you. It's been years. But, people who have had multiple attempts at taking their life. And they're like, now it's like, I live a life that I love, thanks to the work that we did. And they did the work, not me, right? But that's the why. And so want to be able to really do more of that for more people.
You guys truly operate, you have a profit model, a for-profit model, but truly operate like if you're a nonprofit, right? You have this nonprofit heart. Is that purposely, you think?
Yeah, so we're out of network. However, we do offer sliding scale, and we do have a very robust intern program. So we're able to see people at no cost when necessary, at sliding scale when necessary, and we make sure that the people in our intern program are learning the same skill sets and like very, very strongly supervised by people that have those skill sets. So yeah, it's our way to be able to give back, and to me, that feels like a more effective way to give back than to be caught up in the system where there's a lot of regulation around diagnosis and treatment plan and so forth.
As we start to wrap this up, if you had one message for a therapist thinking of building something more than just a private practice, what is it? What is that message?
Find your niche, find the thing that you're passionate about, and do that all the way through. That is, to do the thing that time stands still when you're doing it, you're in flow, you're genius. That's what will drive the rest. You don't have to worry about it. If you're efforting to make something happen, it's not, you're going in the wrong direction.
And how about a small change an individual therapist or practice owner can make this week? I think you have so many good ideas, but when we're talking about these individual practices, can they do anything to align more with patient over profit?
Yeah, I think now more than ever, especially with what's happening in the industry, it's really important to have a niche and to have a specialty, and to really make sure that you're doing a tremendous amount of marketing to know, to others in similar fields, and that you're building a referral pipeline, because it's going to be harder and harder to compete. Like any industry, when there becomes just a couple of players versus thousands, things change. So, really having that niche, having the marketing around that niche.
I'm a big believer that you have a lot of these books because you learn from them in the back. And I just want to ask this question. What is your go-to book? If someone wants to know, okay, great mindset book that could ideally change the way that I'm thinking. You have so many books behind you. What is that go-to book?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. You're going to make me pick one? There's
Give me three. How about three?
different books
Three.
for different purposes. One of my all-time favorite books is The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leaders.
Okay.
Phenomenal book, highly recommended to everybody and anybody. So, and that's a very different way of leading, very different way of interacting with people. But then there are so many others, like so many businessy books, so many different things at different times that have been really helpful. Looking right now, the Grief Recovery Handbook for people facing grief. The E-Myth is fantastic for people like first going into entrepreneurship. So,
Yeah.
so many different things.
I got one recently after I left the airline industry. I think it was the hold on. Oh, here I am breaking stuff back there. It was by Jack Canfield, actually the co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul, which I remember when I was a young kid reading those books. But it was the success principles, and
Oh
as I
yeah,
left,
yeah.
you ever read that one? As I left, I had a leader give me this, and he says, "Hey, I know you're going to do well. This book changed my life when it came to leadership, and I just wanted to pass this along to you." So, I looked through it and okay, I lied. I didn't look through it. I put it in ChatGPT and I said, "You know where I'm at in my life, and these are the things that I'm doing," and it actually pinpoint all the things I needed to know from this book at that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the way that I looked at it because let's be honest, I don't have time right now to read all these pages. But even that, like when we talk about AI and how you can use it, if you use it right, it is truly very helpful. But you could use it in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
And I love, Marjorie, that you've picked up the right ways and that you're sharing so much insight, so much knowledge, whether it's the books, what you guys are doing as an organization, and just to scale in such a short period of time. Not everyone can say that they've scaled the way that you have. Definitely you have something there. I asked you this, matter of fact, before we ask you this last question, where's the socials? Are you guys on social? What's the website so people want to more engage with what you guys are
Yeah, we're
doing?
on Facebook, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, most of them. If you're going to ask me the handle, I'll have to send them to you later. I don't remember.
All good, no
I have
worries.
people that do all that stuff for me.
That's it. That's it. So I ask you this question before we hop off here. You built a therapy practice rooted in values and scales, but what's one decision you actually made early on that you later regretted or maybe pivoted from? And what did he teach you about leadership, growth, or clinical care?
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly, and I think everybody does this at times. You want a person to work out so much, you might really like them, or you might think they have a certain skill set, and you might not really like them. Or, but I think there have been times that I've let things drag on a little too long with the wrong person. You know, right person, right seat is really important. And you know, we run on a system called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and in EOS, you have to GWC your position. You have to get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. And if any of those three things are a no, you're in the wrong seat. And that's been really helpful.
Where do you learn that from?
EOS. So it's a really
Oh, got it,
way
got it.
to run your business, a way to run meetings. It's a fantastic business system.
What is that? So it's a actual system you said?
Yeah, so it's entrepreneurial operating system. There's a book called Traction that walks you through
Uh-huh.
how to do it. And then if you want your company to run on it, you would hire an EOS implementer who will come and facilitate your
Mm.
meetings, and it's really effective and helpful.
I love that. I love that. Marjorie, thank you so much for
Yeah.
the time that we've had today. Like, you have really showed a lot of insight. And just, I love how authentic and real you are. That's one of the best things I love about leaders like yourself is when we can just show up. We don't have a mask on. We truly are ourselves. And that's how we build our business.
Yeah.
It's being authentically us.
Yeah.
And people, and I'm pretty sure that those that work around you see that as well. And that's why you're able to scale the way you have is because people also see the vision. People see your purpose. People understand the why more importantly. I can only imagine you show empathy and all these other good things that leaders, showcase. So kudos to you. You are in the right seat. I'm so happy you did marketing, but left marketing to
Yeah.
be here. I think it's a special place as well where money people are needed. But guys, if you guys are still watching, make sure you guys tap in with Marjorie. Make sure you guys go ahead and follow her on all socials. Go to the website as well and just check out what she's doing. If you guys want to be a part of the team,
Yeah.
feel free to reach out, Marjorie. Are you on LinkedIn as well, Marjorie?
Yeah, I sure am. Yeah.
Perfect. Make sure you guys also find her on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
My name's Efrain. This is Margie. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
Laters.
Thank you.